Hello there. Hey, today I want to talk to you about ways to better navigate juggling work and kids. So if you are a working parent, this is for you. If you have people on your team who have kids, this can help you as well, even if you might not have your own. And I noticed my plant is dying there in the background. It might be because I have just had less time to take care of some things, because I don't know about you, it has been such a season of sickness and people home. And there's been a few times where it's felt like we're in COVID again and juggling the work and kids. And so today I'm going to keep it real. I'm going to share my own challenge with this and share some things that have helped me, have helped some of my clients, weaved in things that I teach as a leadership coach and trainer, and help professionals to be more balanced in their life and still do great work. And so I'm going to share some of the things, but it's really coming from this place of here's what's helping me do it and keeping it real. Because sometimes it feels like I went to shoot this video for you last week and my kid was home all week and constantly reprioritizing, and it just felt, it's so messy sometimes. And it is messy at times. And I think that's the one thing to acknowledge and to share, is that it can feel messy. It will feel messy. You are not alone. It's a hard thing to juggle both your kids and your work at the same time, because they're competing demands. And anytime we're trying to focus on two important things at the same time and our attention is split, it can feel more stressful. For me, this has been like my biggest learning from COVID, is how to better navigate working with your kids around. Because the thing is, before the pandemic, I did my very best to avoid at all costs working while my kids were at home, because it stressed me out. I found like I did kind of a crappy job at both. I never felt like I could really do good at either, and it just stressed me out. And so I really avoided it. And so for me, I've been really good, even with my own business. I've tend to keep my hours pretty close to 9 to 5. I don't work evenings and weekends. One, because I like that free, but also because it stressed me out trying to work with them around, and I like to keep them separate. But when we had COVID and our kids were home, that all changed. And so I had to learn, like many of you had to experience, is how do you navigate that? And I feel now I can navigate it with more joy and presence and ease. I still don't like it. I don't want to do it, but if I have to, I can. And so, but I just want to acknowledge it's a very real challenge. And so now I'm going to share some things that can help and see what works for you. So one, this idea of trying to do it all is challenging. It is challenging to try to do it all. And so we need to not try to do it all. When things change, it's like, I always see like how it's like constant reprioritizing. It might be every single day as reprioritizing, but it's to not take off the really important things. It's to how do we get even closer to the bullseye on what are the things that matter at work to get my time and attention, and what are the things that with my kids to get my time and attention, and how do I want to show up. And one thing, like through COVID with a lot of companies, this is something honestly I found a little bonkers in companies, and there were lots that kind of didn't get it, where they'd say, oh, we're giving people the flexibility because their kids are home and they got to do homeschooling, that they can do the work whenever. And I remember getting in some like passionate discussions with some of my old coworkers about this from my corporate career. And it's like, well, no, I like, if I was still in my full-time role, I don't have 8 hours a day right now to give to work. I don't. So a far more helpful message, I believe, could have been, okay, let's give you back 2 or 3 hours in your day. And because I know you had other things on the go, but for the time you are working, let's make sure that you're doing the things that do matter even more out of it. Instead of like trying to do your same amount that you were doing, it's like, no, we're taking 20% off the top of what we're doing, but we're going to make sure that we do the things that really matter. And that's what I really found with my business, is it was a time, lots of clients, very full schedule. And then trying to do that with kids, it wasn't like, how do I do my normal hours of work and my normal hours kids? Like, no, I actually reduced my working hours. And I know you might be in a situation where you don't have that flexibility. So again, I'll share some things that can help with that. I appreciate you might not be in that, but reduced it. But, instead of working an 8-hour day, would work a 5-hour day. But in those 5 hours, I was like, how do I make these 5 hours count? Even if they're chopped up, even if they're at different points in the day, how do I make it count? To better navigate your work and your kids is starting to get more clear on what really matters. Like, know what matters. Know what is most important in your work. When push comes to shove, this is what gets your time and attention and matters. And then it can be easier to then let go of some of the things that aren't. Like, you might not be able to go to that meeting because right now in this season, you have something that is more important for you to focus on. And in your personal life, knowing what is most important with your kids. And so how I like to do this, again, try and what fits for you, is like, where do you add the highest value? What is most important right now in each of those buckets that are important to you? And then, so your work, and then, with your kids, and it might be other things in the rest of life. And then out of that, instead of trying to do it all within it, what are the 2 or 3 things that are most important? So in my work, I'm always clear on what is the most important things, the top things in my work. So if something has to go, it's not those things that go. Maybe the odd time they have to because something really unexpected came up, but genuinely it's keeping, like, I always like to think of it as like, how do you get even closer to the bullseye of what matters when you reprioritize? But give yourself permission to take things off your plate. So the mistake people get into is, continuing to try to do it all that you're doing when it's like your capacity is reduced. They don't say no to anything, don't take anything off their plate, and just continue to try to do it all, which is super stressful and not very realistic. Or they might take off the important things and then go to like some meaningless meeting that isn't really the best use of their time, or something else, or even maybe something that's good, but it's really not the most important in your time. So one, knowing what matters. Then the other thing is knowing what matters in your life, like almost taking even a bigger step back picture of like what really matters in your life. And for me, when push comes to shove and have to make the tougher choices, it's my husband and kids that get the priority, and myself. That if there's really that tougher decision, it's not black and white. It's not always that simple, but if it's like really comes down to it, that's what gets, because the rest of it doesn't matter without it. What did get off was some of the business growth activity and things like that, so that I could focus on serving my existing clients and serve them well and be there with my kids. And so knowing what really matters in the grand scheme of things, like what's your most important value, what will guide you when you need to make those tougher choices. And really it comes down for me being present. Actually, like I said, but presence is a big thing. And so doing the things that I can be present with them. And even though when I say knowing what really matters, like even with our, kids' schoolwork, sometimes, like, especially being sick, gets all this schoolwork. And it's like, well, it's not feasible. You're going to do all this. So we're even prioritizing his work. It's like, okay, we're going to do these 10 things, but what are the 3 that matter and are best used to focus on? And let's do that. And I don't think enough people give themselves permission to make those tougher choices, to say, I'm not going to do it all. Here's what I am going to do, but I'm going to do that well. And we're going to focus on that. Keeping boundaries. If you are like trying to do things at all hours of the day and not sleeping, and then you sacrifice the things that help you to feel good, like a good night's sleep or some recharge time, that just makes things even harder. And again, I'm not saying this is black and white. I don't know what your situation is, but for me, over the last few years, no matter what's been going on, the boundaries when I'm not working, like evenings and weekends, have tended to be the same. Because and it's just, instead it's like, how, if I got less time to work, how do I get closer to the bullseye? The boundaries have been pretty same because I still need to take care of myself. Trying to do a full, 8 hours helping your kid when they're sick and 8 hours of work, and it's like that doesn't leave much for you. And so when you can take care of yourself through things and honor the stuff you need to protect your time and energy, you can feel better as you go through stuff. The next thing here is to be where you are. And this is such a huge guiding principle for me. And I need to remind myself this at times. When I am doing something with work, that's what I'm focusing on. When I am doing something with kids, that's what I'm focusing on. Even if I need to flex in and out of that through the day, like it might be 10 minutes at work, it might be 10 minutes with him, but to be where I am. And to not be, if I'm trying to hang out with him, because he's not feeling well, to be there, that, not trying to send emails and stuff while I'm sitting there with him. Again, you might have to do that given your situation. I'm not here to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. I'm here to offer you a perspective that can help limit the stress and that can help you be happy with how you're showing up in things. And so being where you are, that's huge. That's been so transformative for me, but it also helps me mentally to just focus that way. And it's like compartmentalizing. And so I find, like, especially when the kids are home, it might be like 30-minute pockets in a day. I'm doing this and then I'm switching to kids and going back and forth, but being present with where I'm at. And a great question that can help with that is, what's most important right now? And that just focuses your brain in the moment. So don't try to do both at the same time. And this isn't even if your kids are sick. This is like in general. Don't try to do them at the same time, because one, it's more stressful. It's also about being present with people when they're with them and we're doing things. And too many people are not where they're at. So be where you are. Practice that. It takes practice. It takes a ton of practice. Even if 100 times your mind is wandering, bring it back to the present moment and where you're at. And I promise you that is something so worth practicing. And like when I started to practice being present, and how I started practicing it was reading my kids a nighttime story at night. Like for me, that was like, I could say the words, but I was thinking about everything I had to do at work the next day. And I was so not present. And until I started practicing being present and being where I'm at, I didn't realize just how not present I was. So that took some time. That took some building the muscle. It took focusing my attention in the moment, but it's made such a tremendous difference now. Letting go of the guilt, but also paying attention to the guilt. I think especially moms carry around a lot of guilt about things, and I do this too. And sometimes the guilt is warranted. Sometimes we aren't showing up as our best. Like if I really have not a good moment and really yell at my kids and I feel guilty about it, that's also telling me something. This is out of line with my values and how I want to show up. And so letting go of the guilt, but also paying attention to what the guilt can offer you and tell you. Oh, is there something for me to do here? Some action to take. And then if it's something that's not, just let it go, because we can't feel guilty about everything. For me, it's when I have to make some of those tougher choices, a lot of times it is letting go of the guilt of not getting something done with work. And that's okay. So my message is to let go of the guilt, but also pay attention to if the guilt is warranted and if there's something there for you to do. And you don't want to be hard on yourself. Don't beat yourself up, but remember that tomorrow is a new day. Being very intentional and mindful of how you are showing up and how you want to show up. When you're not showing up in the way you want, to just notice it. Again, not be hard on yourself, but recognize that is your moment to shift. On the days that are tougher, that like juggling more, when I'm like, how do I show up today? That is my reminder, like, to be kind and present and patient. That's what I'm doing. And then when I feel like my frustration rise, it's like, that is a cue to just take a moment, take a deep breath and go, okay, how do I want to show up in this? How can I act in a way that's a reflection of who I want to be as a parent, as a team member, if it's with someone, and, depending if it's the work in the day or the kids in the day, but having that presence and intention, again, that can make such a difference in how you're showing up. But it doesn't mean being perfect. It doesn't, like, things will not go smoothly. Things will feel messy, but it's recognizing you have these moments to pivot in your day. Okay. So it can be a bad 10 minutes, not a bad rest of your day. And then finally, and there's a lot of other things. These are the things that have helped me to navigate it with more calm and ease and joy. The next thing is recognizing that life is short. Your life is right now. What is going to matter in the grand scheme of things? And so for me, and I offer this perspective for you, is an extraordinary life comes from getting the ordinary moments right. An extraordinary life comes from getting the ordinary moments right. To be patient and present with my kids. That is to stop and smile and ask them how their day was. Again, not just if they're sick, but anytime. It is to show up with my clients and be present and engaged. It is to give my husband a kiss before he leaves to work in the moment and say, have a good day. It is to give myself an hour in the morning to just honor what I need. If the day all goes sideways and doesn't go the way I want, to grant myself grace and remember tomorrow's a new day and be kind to myself. It is to smile The day might not have gone the way you wanted and things gone, but there are still a lot of things that we can appreciate and that are good. And if some of those business goals they don't hit or some of those other things don't happen, that's okay. I feel like I'm showing up how I want my life. And when I don't, I can notice it and honor the things I need, because this isn't about that you'll never have a bad day. This isn't about things being perfect. It is being kinder to yourself as you go through things. An extraordinary life comes from being those ordinary moments right, and not just autopilot through them and not just going. It's like actually to be present for them. And then it's also deciding that I get to choose to navigate this with more joys and ease, or to navigate it as a stressed out basket case. And listen, if you have a hard time, if you're super stressed out and you have a hard time with this, that's when you got to step back and pay attention, take care of what you need, because you need something, maybe a good night's sleep, maybe to take something off your plate. Like, we honor, if your tank is empty, it is very hard to be there for others in a real meaningful way. And so honor the things you need. That is okay. That is good. But we get to choose whether to go through things super stressed out or not. And so even like the Christmas season, I hear a lot of like, it's really stressful season, it's really stressful season. And I go, what would make this a good season? That I'm happy how I'm showing up. What needs to happen so it's less stressful? What does that look like? And that often comes with saying no to things that just drain my time and energy. So I want to offer you that, give yourself permission to say no to some other things, to take care of what you need, get clear on the things that really matter, be okay to like flex in and out of a situation, be where you are, pay attention to those small moments. You're doing better than you think. Give yourself credit. And also, pay attention to what you need. So just want to offer that. I'd love to hear in the comments, what is the biggest question or takeaway from you?